welcome to the December 14th, 2020 Valley View School Board meeting. Would ask everyone rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice President Zach. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic
which stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
While you're there, Vic, why don't you give us the board affirmation statement as well?
Our mission statement is to empower all learners to be college, career, and life ready, and to develop, grow, and achieve as productive citizens.
Thank you. Agenda, Ms. Kinder.
Yes, President Quigley, we'd like to ask the board to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Mr. Gazafi, if you would give us the treasurer's report, please.
Yes, Treasurer's Action Report 5.1 includes the monthly reports as prepared by our treasurer, including the balance sheet, summary of revenue and expenditures, as well as interim obligation payments through the month of November, totaling $5,148,216.34 for consideration tonight.
Is there a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. A roll call vote would be in order. Shelley?
Shelley, your mic's off.
Member Campbell, sorry.
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Mr. Gazafi?
Schedule of bills for the month of December representing 4 funds totaling bills payable of $1,686,805.61, also for your action.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Sikora.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
We've got the Treasurer's Information Reports 5.3.
Shelley, I'm an aye on that. I didn't hear you, but I'm an aye. Go ahead. Sorry, Gary.
We've got Treasurer's Information Report, Summary of Investments. 5.4 is Property Taxes Received. 5.5 is the State Funding Update. And 5.6 is the Student Trust Accounts.
Anybody have any question of Mr. Gazafi? I just have one, Gary. On the property tax received, how does that put us where we thought we were going to be versus where we are?
As you can see from, from the report, we're 0.4 of a percentage point behind where we were at this point last year, which was kind of a line in the sand for us with the county allowing a deferral of half of the tax payments. And so I think we're in a really good place. You know, thinking back to March when the Finance Committee was really, you know, game planning to see what, you know, worst case scenarios could be. So I am pleased, to say the least, with where we stand.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions on Treasurer's Report? Consent agenda items. Ms. Kinder.
Yes, sir. We have 4 items under consent this evening for your approval. 6.1, board meeting minutes from November 16th, 2020. 6.2, executive session meeting minutes, November 16th, 2020. 6.3, 2 gifts to Dr. James Mitchum Early Childhood Center, and 1 gift to Irene King Elementary School and 1 to Romeoville High School. 6.4, resolution number 2108, approving employment settlement agreement and general release.
Motion?
So moved. Sikora. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Student staff recognition, who's got this? BHS Madrigal, RHS Madrigal.
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment this evening under student staff recognition to recognize all of our performers, musicians, vocalists, those students who support production, as well as our dedicated staff who make it all happen. We've had the gift of getting some joy that we don't have the in-person events and activities and performances like we normally do this time of year, but we've gotten to enjoy fall plays, concerts, performances, and while virtual can never replace the in-person, the creativity, innovation, and talent shines very brightly, and we are very proud of our students and staff. So I just wanted to take a moment this evening, just go back one, to recognize our BHS Madrigals who put on a very successful streamed Madrigal performance on YouTube, as well as our RHS Madrigal performance who did the same and did a drive-in to showcase their Madrigal performance. And our Bolingbrook High School Christmas concert is this Friday evening, which will also be streamed on YouTube, and so that's something very enjoyable for our whole community to enjoy. So again, great work to all of our students and staff. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
And
And
then-
if you didn't see it, I think they loop it, don't they, on some of the local channels? So
Yes, yes,
it's-
it is
It's
still
certainly
available.
worth your time to watch.
Yeah. And then we have one teacher spotlight this evening. Every week we try to showcase some of our amazing staff members, and Mr. Blaney in our communications department does a highlight of visiting one of our teachers. And even though we're remote, you can still see some of the magic occurring with our teachers and how hard they're working. Innovation, creativity to still connect and to reach our kids, to teach, to connect, to build relationships. One of our recent spotlights was Mrs. Arlisa Edom. She is a 5th grade teacher at Irene King Elementary School. So we wanted to take the opportunity at board meetings to share these brief spotlights periodically, and this is one that we'd like to share this evening of Mrs. Lisa Edom at Irene King.
So Andrew, whenever you hear this music, I know you're new to our class. This is the music to let you know it's time for math, okay?
Swag Nation is basically what we have adopted to. It's sort of success, willpower, great attitude, and setting goals. I want the students to buy into their learning, their education. So when they come in, they automatically become a part of Swag Nation. So when I first meet them, I say, do you have swag? And they say, yeah. I said, nope, you have to have swag. If you're gonna belong to this classroom, you must have swag. The expectations are extremely high. And so I tell them, they're gonna be high, but I got your back. And we must have each other's back in order to be successful. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for you to show me that you are successful by just showing growth. It's this old song that I like, rap song, and the kids laugh. It's called Started from the Bottom, Now We Here. And that's basically letting them know that success basically means growth. And sometimes you may go backwards before you can go forwards. So being competitive just pushes them to feel like, you know what, I matter. And I have a stake in my education. And I want to raise the bar so I can prove to myself, my family, other classmates, other classes that I can do it. So basically, I'm looking for growth.
All right, so we're gonna persevere. You're gonna choose strategies for solving a problem and checking your answers. However, say however, we're gonna use each other. We're gonna use each other for support to check each other's answers.
I'm a late bloomer when it comes to being a teacher. I've only been a teacher for 6 years. I used to be a caseworker. So I used to work for Department of Human Services. I used to work in foster care. So all of my past experiences have been in social service. So I would say just basically working in that setting has taught me to bring over some of those ideas in a classroom.
So can I have Michaela J. please read our target? What's our target for today? What are you going to be learning? Oh yeah, please stop the dog barking. Liliana, what's our target, sweetie? Michaela J. had to stop the dog from barking.
We can estimate multi-digit products by rounding factors to a basic fact and using place value partners.
Uh-oh, what did you leave off? Loud and clear.
Please write it.
Please write it.
Even though it's remote, I still want them to feel a part of a community. I want them to feel like they're still in a classroom. There's still high expectations, but when I involve them and give them a say-so as far as what it should look like and how it should feel, that kind of helps me too, because then we're working at it together.
Be ready to tell me, what do you already know how to do in this target? What looks familiar to you? Let's only talk about what we already know, okay? Who would like to go first?
I feel like I am serving the students, and I guess I get that from the caseworkers or being a case, the side of me, but I feel like I'm a servant, and I feel like it's not, I don't want to dictate to them how it's going to look. I mean, some things are non-negotiable. They have to have swag, but we could talk about what ways you can demonstrate swag, success, willpower, great attitude, and goals.
So I'd like to just thank Mrs. Edom for being a part of one of our spotlights, Mr. Blaney for capturing some of the magic that's happening even in the remote classroom and the virtual classroom. You can see just how hard our teachers, staff, and students are working. So we're pleased to share a spotlight with you this evening.
Thank you. Moving down the agenda, liaison reports. Let's start with you guys on the remotely. Ms. Perro?
Yes, on December 3rd, Member Sikora and myself attended a curriculum meeting with Miss Nita White and the team, and they presented to us what's actually going to be presented tonight about the Fontes and Pinal Classroom guided reading literacy curriculum, and it's exactly where we need to be, what we need to be doing, and the direction we need to be heading in with our students. So I think Debbie and I were both very impressed with what we heard and learned, and so I look forward to the action item tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Sikora?
Yes, on Tuesday, the 8th, we met with senior leadership. Mr. Member Zach, myself, met to discuss the planning committee for coming back after the new year. And that will be presented tonight. Again, senior leadership is working very hard to make sure everything runs smoothly and that these children are safe, the teachers are safe, and we get back in school as soon as we can.
Thank you. Member Campbell?
Yes, under the leadership of Assistant Superintendent White, District Equity, we met on December 10th, and I'm excited, most of all, you guys know that the students we have that's on this committee, we are moving forth slowly but surely, and that we're just excited about all the diversity that we have and the knowledge that we have, like the teacher was saying, you don't have to know it all, you don't have to be perfect. So we're all learning and growing, and all the participants there. So hats out to all the people that are working on this committee under the leadership of Assistant Superintendent White.
Thank you.
Superintendent White, she was at our meeting also.
Thank you. Member Gilbo? Any board report? Do you have any board liaison reports? Thank you. Vic?
No, we have a meeting tomorrow at Wilco. We're doing those at Zoom, and Sybil, the executive secretary, is retiring over there, so the new lady's going to have a lot of big shoes to fill, and the kids are going there roughly 2 days a week. Our kids from Bolingbrook and Romeoville. That's about all I have going.
Thank you. I have no report. So moving down the agenda, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address the board this evening? Seeing none, moving down the agenda. Oh, wait. Please state, go to the microphone, please. Please state your name, where you're from.
My name is Becky. I'm a mom from Irene King Middle School, or elementary school, I'm sorry.
Can you get closer to the microphone, please? Thank you. The muffle doesn't
Can you
help.
hear me now?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. I know that there's plans to go back in January, so what I have to say might hopefully be void. But I first want to start out by thanking all the amazing teachers that have been working so hard during this difficult time. I'm here today to plead to the school board to please open the schools. We now have data from schools around the world, from all over the United States, from schools in Illinois, showing that the infection rates in schools are much lower than that of the general public. The head of the CDC has recommended schools be open and that COVID is not acquired in schools but in the household. And I quote, "Schools are the safest place for children." Catholic schools within the Chicago Archdiocese have had a majority of their schools open fully on a daily basis with none reporting in school transmissions. Among 20,000 students and 2,700 staff, they saw 29 student cases and 20 staff cases. There are many studies showing similar findings throughout the US and the world. The survivability rate of people under 20 is 99.992%. Our kids have a higher chance of dying from the flu. For people aged 20 to 49, the survivability rate is 99.84. More than 70% of the teachers are under 50. So the survival rate for people under 70 is 99.5. The school closures are having horrible consequences for our children. Student enrollment is down, student failure rate is up, suicides and opioid addiction is up, child abuse and murders and shootings of children are on the rise, and the achievement gap is growing. This should not be a surprise considering these children are expected to sit at a computer screen for 5 hours plus a day, 5 days per week. Screen time impacts brain development, fine motor skills, and is linked to obesity and short attention spans. These children need socialization with their peers. They're missing milestones in their lives they will never get back. They will have blank yearbooks, missing the president body pictures, missing prom pictures, athletic photos, band, theater. They're missing memories of their first kindergarten class, their first friends they made, and endless more. My 5-year-old son asked me, "Mom, why is it like there are no kids in the world anymore?" I have read other parents' comments on social media describing their children as hibernating bears who sleep all day and are disinterested in school. Tragically, others who once fun, loving, energetic child who have taken their own lives. School closures is having a trickle effect into many other areas of many people's lives. When the school is closed, guardians are forced into finding a job that works with their child's schedule or having to switch to part-time or quit their job altogether. 216,000 men and 4 times that, 865,000 women have left the workforce. School faculty should be held to the same standards of everyone else. Store clerks, police, construction workers, fast food workers, maids, pilots, all have to make the choice to go to work or not get paid. If the schools cannot provide an adequate education, they should give the money to the family so they can make the decision of what suits their family's needs, like tutors, homeschool, private schools. Where a child lives should not be a reason to why they get an education or not. I understand COVID is a virus many have died from, but if we are too scared of a virus with a 99% survival rate and are waiting to open when we have 0 cases, then we will never open. We need to be leaders for our kids, and we need to provide them with a life worth living. I would rather sacrifice my own life than have my children and all these other children not getting to experience a normal life, filled with friends and a childhood experiences that we were also lucky enough to have.
Can you provide that document to somebody? Yeah, I mean, you got a copy of that? Yeah, just make sure we get a copy of that. Somebody send an email or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Let's see. Where are we at? Action reports. Ms. Kinder.
Hi.
Oh,
Hi,
sorry.
my name is Allison Wold and I have a 4th grade. Again, I know I've talked to you. I'd intended on writing stuff out, but I didn't. I just, like, my child struggles. She's a social kid. She's very bright. This has been oh my God. This has been a very hard time for us as a family unit because she doesn't understand, as a fourth grader as bright as she is, she doesn't understand why we have to be at home because she hears it's a virus and she knows that people get sick and recover. The hardest thing that's been for her, we've stopped telling her when we're gonna go back because we started off with, we're going back in August, we're going back in October, we're going back in November, and then just not the understanding of, well, why do they keep setting a marker of when we're gonna go back? So at the very least, I know we have to plan, but if we can plan for, if the numbers go up, if we can plan and say, I'm sorry, we're not going back this school year at all, I'd rather tell my child that than, okay, we're gonna go back January 19th and have her be disappointed again. I recognize that going back to school now in January, it's not going to be the same. They're not gonna have the small groups that they would. They're not gonna be able to eat lunch in a lunchroom like they normally would. We get that. We know that we need to have precautions, but these kids really, really need to be in school. At the very least for the interaction, be it not the same, the interaction with their people, their friends, their teachers, you know, the psychologists that come in to see them and say hello. It's not the same, and they need to be there. Thank you, and I didn't intend on crying.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice.
Moving down the agenda, if there's no one else, I see no one else who wants to speak. Superintendent report, Ms. Kinder.
No report, and I will speak to the parents that commented this evening to your comments a little later on in the agenda, and I do thank you for sharing your comments about the true challenges that parents, families, and kids are experiencing with this time.
Action report, Ms. White.
Good evening. I do have 5 action reports, 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, and 11.5. I will take them one by one. Last time in November, I presented to you action item 11.1, board policies 2.30, board policy 2.110, board policy 6.300, 6.310, 7.70, 7.150, and 7.260.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Yes.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Sally.
Oh, thank you, Liz. For 7.260, exemption from physical activity. In this one, it says, it gives some parameters of when students can skip PE. And one of them says if the parent does not agree that they can skip, like the parent doesn't want them to skip PE, the school can still have them skip PE if it's in their IEP. I have a question about that. Why, if a parent would want them to participate and it's their child, why they would still not do what the wishes of the parents are?
Okay, thank you for that question. I do have our attorneys with us, Liz Wagman, who's going to help me with some of these policies and the updates from press.
Sorry. Get
myself situated so we can go through them and any of the other ones that you guys have questions about. So 7.260 is exemption for physical activity. Like I've kind of outlined in previous board meetings, what we do when we consider these is I am looking at press. I'm also looking at what the school code requires. So a lot of the things that you're seeing in here incorporate what the school code requires. Sally, I think you're talking about point 4 where it says students in grades 3 through 12. Is that accurate? 4A?
Keep reading, I'll let you know if that's the one.
4A, it says students in grades 3 through 12, and then it says a student that is eligible for special education supports and services may be excused if the student's parent or guardian agrees that the student must utilize the time set aside for physical education to receive special education support and services, or if the parent or guardian is not in agreement, if the IEP team determines that the student must utilize the time set aside for PE to receive special education support and services, and such agreement or determination is documented in the student's IEP. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that is the one, and it kind of states in there that if the parent is not in agreement, that the child would still skip PE.
It's a may, and it gives the IEP team, which again, typically includes a parent and would be documented as such, and would have a conversation. The IEP team would then have a conversation about why it would deem that this is necessary. Again, everything with the individual child with the IEP is going to focus on their needs. And so this just gives the IEP team flexibility if they need to determine that the student needs additional services during that time. So it just, again, is a may, and it allows for the flexibility of the IEP team. It's not a requirement.
And the parent is a part of those meetings,
Correct.
Absolutely, with those decisions being made.
And like it says in this section, that determination would have to be then documented in the IEP. So they would have to have some documentation as to why they're making that decision, which Rachel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would also be supported by the data, and the student's need would drive that.
So I know that the parents sit down with the school employees and help agree upon the IEP that is suited best for the child, but I would still think that if a parent wanted their child to participate, that you wouldn't go against the parent's wishes.
No, and this would absolutely be a discussion at the IEP meeting with the parent to ensure that the parent was comfortable with the services and supports that were being provided with the child, and that would be documented as part of the IEP.
And it doesn't, again, it's not that they must do it, it just is a may, and it gives the school district a little flexibility and the IEP teams a little flexibility.
The goal of this is to come in compliance with state statute, correct?
That's the thing, this language is all in alignment with school code. So typically, that's how the policies are reviewed, and we ensure that there's alignment with those so that language speaks to exactly how that school code is written, and that possibility is there. But keep in mind, just on an application level, we have a process in place for teams to determine that with the parent input, with student input, with a whole host of other information and data, what is best going to meet a child's needs. So a parent would definitely be a part of that. And if a parent had concern, there's a process for that too. If they're not pleased with the services or supports that the team feels, there's a process for discussing that and working through that as well.
And let me also clarify, so these again are the board policies, and this is obviously one section, but like Superintendent Kinder noted, there are also administrative procedures that kind of couple to this. So there would be then requirements or expectations or discussions about how this would actually be implemented in the school setting.
So technically, it wouldn't be done without the parent's consent, but it kind of is worded that it is done, it could be done without the parent's consent. That the wording is just contradictory to what I'm hearing from you guys. So I was just wondering if maybe that wording could be changed or fixed.
So legally, they are entitled to move forward without the parents, without the parent kind of giving them permission if they feel that it is needed for the student under the IEP and to make progress under the IEP. However, procedurally, the school district is working hard to collaborate with the parents so that they don't have to use the minutes in the day to service students in this fashion. This would be kind of an outlier and an exception, but it is within the rights under the school code for the school district to make such decisions.
Thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. There's no further
I
discussion.
had another question too. In that same policy, I saw another part that says that students can miss PE if they're involved in band or in a sport. And then my question is, and then it says if they are no longer doing that, then they would be back into the PE class. So my question would be how we are doing that in Valley View if somebody is in a sport that falls, let's say basketball, it's at the end of one semester and the beginning of another semester. So would the student, when that season is done or before that season starts, be in a PE class, and then when they're in their sport, they don't participate, and then when they're done with their sport, then they continue into the PE class? How are we handling that in our district?
The waiver is by semester in which the sport falls. And so for a student in a fall sport, for example, they could have a waiver in the fall, and then spring semester they would have typical PE class, and that's how we've operated for quite some time. And then, keep in mind, student athletes are involved in training leading up to their, official season. For example, summer, they're involved in training for the football season that will begin in the fall. So there's always that physical activity, that component that's present, and that's why the state has created the school code in this way. This isn't Valley View language. This is what's allowable by the state, and so how we apply it is by the semester.
Yeah, so I was just wondering how we do apply it. So if a person was in basketball that was in the winter or a winter sport, then the whole year they would not take PE? Do we just, they have to ask permission, or is it just something that just happens and then they don't take PE all year because they take a winter sport?
A part of their scheduling. So, if the child is scheduled again, for example, for fall or for sport, it's naturally a part of their schedule, and that's exempting them for that semester.
Don't they just get one semester off for the sport? Yeah.
Semester. Yep.
Well, winter sports are first semester and second semester.
So they pick one of them.
They'll be at the end of the fall and then at the beginning of the.
They'll pick either fall semester or spring semester.
What?
They'll pick either fall semester or spring semester to be exempt.
Is that true?
I believe it's where the majority of the season falls. And so for a sport that spans across 2 semesters, I would need to confirm. I'm not certain. We have a lot of multi-sport athletes, so a lot of them will be exempt, for multiple semesters anyway, for 2 semesters anyway. I would have to confirm that.
Thank you.
Okay, you finished,
All right.
Sally?
Yeah.
Are you finished, Sally?
Yeah, sorry, shaking my head. I didn't know you couldn't see me.
Okay, I'm in this technology, you know about that. Well, I did have a question. I brought it to Assistant Superintendent White also. I just wanted to clarify, maybe it's legal. I have questions, even though we said these are the policy, these are the standards. They come from press through Illinois Association of School Boards, but I just have that last paragraph in policy 230, whereas they says that the secretary is the official person, when I thought that for the petitions, I want to make sure that I'm reading it, and maybe the attorney can explain that, because now I remember back when I first got on the board that, petitions was brought in, to the district office, where now I know we have to take them to the county office. So I just wanted to make sure I know it's in the policy, not reading too much or taking too much out of that. So I just still
Thank you.
want to make that comment, hear a little discussion about that.
Sure. Thank you, Member Campbell, and thank you for reaching out to me prior to the meeting. We've had a discussion about this, and you're right. In the past, this was a part of policy, and as we look closely, it is still a part of policy. Now, it seems like in Will County, they may do something a little different where petitions are turned in directly to Will County, but I'm also going to let Attorney Liz Wagman continue commenting on this about our discussion that we had in reference to this.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this question. It seems like this is a question actually a lot of you all have raised under this policy, or it's noted in other documents that has continued to come up and kind of had been a head scratcher for everybody. So I want to clarify a little bit about what this paragraph is and what it's referencing. So in 2014, a lot of the responsibilities of the local election official were moved to the county level. And so that includes providing nominating, I'm going to read you kind of the blurb about it, but providing that nominating petitions are filed with the county clerk or the county board of election commissioners if one was created, objections to nominating petitions or to a petition for a public question are submitted to the county officers, electoral board. The election code also addresses reportable campaign contributions, simultaneous filing of nominating petitions, withdrawal of nominations. All of these are duties that fell to the county. The school, however, 10 ILCS 5-28-6 provides that any petition for the submission of a public question to referendum must be filed with the local election official. And then the local election official is defined by the school code, and it states that this is still the board secretary or clerk. So the majority of the responsibilities regarding the nominating petitions and things along those lines have moved to the county level. However, this responsibility that any petition for the submission of a public question to referendum, that still has to be filed with the local election official, which is defined as the board secretary. And I can send you these citations if it's helpful to follow along, rather than me just cite them up here.
So what she just said was the state of Illinois passed a law in 2014 that requires all the petition filings to be done with and at the county.
Correct.
Any referendum we might initiate would be done locally and does not have to go through the county.
A public question, yeah.
Okay, any other questions on board policies? We have a roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Pero,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
Quigley,
Yes. High school summer school program, Ms. White?
Yes, last time I presented information in reference to our high school summer school program, and today I'm presenting it for action.
Motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Pero,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Special education, extended school year program.
Yes, last time I presented information in reference to special education extended school year program. Tonight I'm bringing it for action.
Motion?
So move.
Second.
Member Sikora and Member Pero. Any discussion?
I have a question for Ms. White. Could you explain the funding of that again for me, please, if you wouldn't mind?
Sure, absolutely. This funding, again, will be covered by local funds. Some also may be reimbursed by Medicaid. It's indicated there in the report under.
And what are the local funds?
Local funds that have been set aside. Some funds will come out of local funds have been set aside for ESY. We also have, local funds that are set aside for this.
Is that tax dollars or?
Yes, most likely those would be the
That's most
special ed
likely,
tax levy, the special education portion of the tax levy.
And we also receive transportation reimbursement from the state.
So in the report, it's $342,000. Half of that from the 2021 budget, the other half is from the 2022 budget.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley,
Yes. School calendar.
Yes, last time I presented information, 21-22 school calendar, and today I'm presenting for action.
So moved.
Motion,
Second.
motion and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just have one question. It says April 15th, school is closed. Why is school closed? It doesn't say, it
Election.
just says school closed that day.
That's an election.
No, it's not. Typically in the past, we have actually
the
named
election?
that. No. Are you saying April 15th or no? Is that correct?
Yeah, April 15th.
So April 15th, in the past, we have called that a specific, sometimes it was called Good Friday, other times, but we decided.
Wrong month.
Correct. Right, so we decided as a committee, we met as a committee and we talked about being inclusive and politically correct. And so therefore, it was decided that we would not name it Good Friday to be respectful of those religions that may not celebrate. And so therefore, we would just state that schools are closed. When we compared and looked at their school calendars for neighboring districts, it also indicated just schools closed.
Thank you. I had my months messed up. March 15th is election day. Any other discussion? Roll call vote on the calendar.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
Quigley.
Yes.
Okay, and fun.
Last but not least, I let my computer, the ESSA.
So every Student Succeeds Act, last time I presented information in reference to the school improvement reports, and tonight I'm bringing them forth for action.
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question. It said on the leadership team that there was a board member that worked on this. Which board member was that?
So each different school had their bid team and may have had a board member participating on a specific team. I would have to find exactly who it was for that school. Do you know which school you're referring to?
No. Maybe I could just ask everybody, which board member was it? Any of you guys? So the only one would be JT? I don't think it was JT.
Member Gilbo, where do you see that indicated? I know a school board member may participate. Does it say?
Yeah.
It
But
said
it
on
doesn't say
the
that.
leadership team, it was, might have been the Irene King.
It says highlight all that apply, and I'm not sure that that's one that was highlighted.
Yeah, it was. I want to say it might have been Irene King. If you want to look on the, the report for that. I was just wondering, thank you very much.
Sure. I mean, I'd be glad to find out for you and report back to you which one it was.
Okay, thank you. I have another question
I'm having you
too.
that.
Maybe you could just help me with the whole process a little bit. So I know the grading on these 3 schools was low, and we've brought up 2 of the schools. And we can't really tell with Irene King because of the testing right now, if they've been brought up or not. But maybe you could just explain to me and to the people listening, how are these schools graded? Like, who sees it? Like, who measures this? How is it measured? I mean, I know that there's a list of all these things that, rubric that says you meet this or you don't meet that, but what group or who is the one that is measuring this? How is it measured?
So it depends on the area in which the school has not met. In the case of Irene King, it surrounded special education students. And so therefore, you looked at the data, they were able to designate exactly who, and they wrote a plan around those groups of students. As you're already stated, there was no test last year, so therefore we do not have the results of that, and we have to continue with the same designation that they had the year before. But it is the VIT team and the members that you've seen outlined, the forms, principal, assistant principal, and other teacher leaders who create this in conjunction with Mary Worcester and her team from the Special Services Department.
So does somebody come into the school and observe? Like, how do they know?
This is based strictly on the targets that the state sets for student performance by subgroup for their growth as measured by the state test, so the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. And then based on how the students do in comparison to the targets that were set when they look across the state, it was identified that that one subgroup was not on target for having the students, the percentage of students meet their expected growth to hit that target. So although it was 2 years ago, it's a process that the state applies support and some additional funding for the team to provide additional resources, support for teachers or students in that category. And for this, in this case, it was students with individualized education plans at that one building.
So when it says like, you haven't met the culture of the student or of the teacher or of the school, how is that measured? Through test questions?
If you're talking about the rubric that has the indicators on that, that is a self-assessment that the building team has to complete and provide evidence for as part of their process of reflecting to look at what continuous improvement process is in place and what are they doing universally that's working, and then what are they doing in addition for specific subgroups. So that team sits down and completes that, and there at times could be support from a regional level. In this case, that was completed by the team. How the student growth is measured is by the state assessment.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, roll call vote, please.
Member Gilbo?
Yes.
Member Perro?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Mr. Grisafi, Resolution 2107.
Yes, that's
Adoption of the tax levy.
First of 2 actions, it is the resolution to adopt the 2020 tax levy as was presented at our meeting in November. The tax cap limitation does apply to our levy, which limits property tax increases for existing property owners to the CPI, Consumer Price Index, or 5%, whichever is less. In the case of our request, we'll be capped at 2.3%, which is the 12-month trailing index that was established back in January of 2020. This is exclusive of any existing debt service and new property. Our extension request is a bit higher than the actual extension will be due to the fact that we do not know the value of the equalized assessed property values, as well as any new property being unknown at this time. but certainly our tax request will not be exceeded from what is being requested. We are requesting $159,655,000 in operating funds, which is a 2.98% increase over last year. Again, more than most likely we will receive. For debt service, the levy is set by prior board actions. Aggregate total there is $37.5 million for a total levy request of $197 million, which is an increase of 2.61 over the prior year's extension. A lot of exhibits in the packet. I've got a 10-year property valuation history. I think the important factors there, 10-year average growth, just 0.4%. We've had some negative years there in the early parts of the decade. 5-year average is 5.12, so again, starting to see property values start to creep up to more historical averages. But again, pretty telling difference in the decade, right? Beginning of the decade to the back half of the decade. Next illustration, Exhibit 2, just gives you a comparison of the prior year's extension to the levy. Again, there you'll see that 2.61%. My best guess is the levy will come in at 2.38, which is just a few points higher than the actual CPI, and that's due to the new property. The rate, fortunately, will go from $7.22 to an estimated $7.05, or a 17-cent drop. Overall, we should get a little over $4 million in new operational funding, which is about 1.5% of operational, on our operational budget of $264 million. So again, a 1.5% new money coming through the door, which again is good, but not great. A lot of calculations there. I won't go through all of these spreadsheets, but it is the backup that formulates the levy, and certainly these were presented back in November. You've got a CPI chart there giving you, which I found interesting, the 10-year and the 5-year average for that CPIU index is identical at 1.8%. So that has been the cost of living increase that drives our property levy over these last 10 years, 1.8%. I won't go over the property valuations, pretty similar year over year. We're 79% in DuPage Township and 21% in Lockport Township. 60% of our property classified as residential, 26% industrial, 13% commercial. Property taxes as a percentage of revenue. I thought this was rather interesting. We're just about two-thirds, or over two-thirds, 67% taxes as a percentage of all revenue. That's about 2 points higher than last year. And that's due to the fact that we're not getting any new state funding this year, and federal money also is flat to declining. So obviously local revenues represent a larger share. And so, you know, if people were wondering how much of property taxes fund operations, we're right on that 2/3 mark. Just a real quick primer on what next year looks like. We won't know until mid-January what that final December CPI comes in at. It could be as low as 0.4, which would be, you know, pretty devastating in terms of revenue. The lowest we've seen in you know, modern day CPI history was 0.1 back in 2008, which was the beginning of the Great Recession. If we receive an average drop that December has represented, we could see a tax rate at 1.1. So anywhere between 0.4 and 1.1 for next year's levy. So it'll be probably less than half of what we're seeing for this levy. And so with that, I am recommending that we approve Resolution 2107, which is the adoption of the 2020 tax levy as presented.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Gilbo,
I would really like to see us lower taxes. I'm going to say no.
Member Perro,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
Quigley.
Yes.
Second action item is the presentation of the board policies that were presented for review at the last board meeting. Those are operational services, 4.110 transportation, and 4.140 waiver of student fees. Recommend approval as presented.
Motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Harrell,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
Yes, I think you're talking to me, but your microphone cut out. I'm an aye.
okay.
Thank you. Moving down the agenda. Where are we at? Ms. Nash, Consolidated Action Report for Certified, Classified, and Administrative Personnel.
Yep. Action Report 13.1 is our consolidated action report for certified and classified personnel. This evening, we're seeking approval on 43 items for certified personnel, 81 items for classified personnel, 1 item for classified administrative personnel, and 1 item for certified administrative personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
I had a question. Is it too late to ask since we started the,
Well, we started the roll call.
all right, I'm gonna say no.
Member Harrell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
Yes. Information reports. Ms. Kinder, if you would, please.
Yes, we will be displaying the presentation for our update on our Return Together 365 View plan, our regular update to the school board and community. And I do want to acknowledge the 2 parents that spoke this evening and parents who have emailed or reached out. We fully understand your desire, your children's desire to be back in person together in school. We fully recognize how challenging it is to maintain home demands and support your child at the same time, let alone be missing out on the social connection and all of the other things that school provides. So our goal is your goal, and that is to have our kids back with us. That's our staff want the same thing, and we do truly want to work toward that January date. And I know that setting the targets and then not being able to move forward at that time is not only disappointing or confusing to children, let alone disappointing for kids and adults. It is always very difficult, but we've continued to do that so that we can have a firm target set so that we are able to move forward and are as prepared as possible. So I do know that, there's different feelings or opinions about that. And at the same time, I do truly want us to have firm plans in mind so that we are as prepared as possible for students, parents, staff to make that return to come together on site. So tonight I want to provide information related to our current status of full remote through winter break and the end of first semester, and then discuss any of the related information that we have. So we certainly have a lot to look back on over this past 9 months and over the time frame of the 2020 year in totality. And through all the challenges, there have been highlights, there have been positive, silver linings on the cloud of things that we are truly proud of our families, our students, our staff, and how they've adapted and innovated and created and just endured and sustained and continue to show up. And continue to work truly hard, even when it feels more difficult than ever to do so. So we truly recognize that. And we do want to set our sights on looking forward, on coming back together in person. And so as we stand now, we are still in our status of full remote learning for all of our students through the duration of first semester. We are in this period of transition where we are planning to work toward implementing our hybrid model. And so we've had many starts and stops. We've had some early successes with programming and bringing students back on site, and we've had a great deal of time to not only refine remote learning, but also refine our plans for bringing the hybrid model into full effect. A new timeline has been shared with the community and our staff as a whole that outlines what that phased return will look like in the second semester. Right after our return, we will have a time frame of continued full remote, and we feel that this is in the best interest of health and safety, simply because we do not know what the holiday is going to bring, and if we will see a surge in positivity to a substantial level of community transmission. And if we see that as the science suggests and as trends have shown in the past, we want to create that buffer of time before we begin that transition. So I want to talk a little bit about each level, and I know this chart can look somewhat confusing, but it does have our target start as January 19th for those students, programs in our first wave of transition. We also have learned some things in the sense of staggering so that we can have the best success possible in making sure that we can bring our students on site. So I'm going to break this down by level, and then after that speak to the health metrics, and then answer any questions. So beginning on January 19th, for our STEP program that was fully operational previously, we would, of course, continue our full remote model for those families who have selected that. That's currently what our students are experiencing now with synchronous and asynchronous work time. Also time for their afternoon and morning support and their instructional blocks. The on-site program would begin on their regular schedule, which would be daily on-site Tuesday through Friday, and this would begin on January 19th. And this is the same times that they have experienced previously with 7:15 to 12:30 and with a lunch, a grab and go, and community-based instruction as allowable. For our high school program, we would continue our full remote model for those who have selected that, and that's 5 days a week, and then hybrid would be a gradual return by level. As it's outlined in the chart, we have on-site 2 days a week for each group, Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday, dependent on the last name. Mondays would be remote for all learners together in one virtual classroom. And this is a blend of on-site learning and at-home learning with all teachers. And so this does involve the simultaneous modes of instruction for those who are on-site versus those who are joining remotely. I do want to invite Mr. Adam Herder, Executive Director of Middle and High School, into the virtual board meeting room. And he will be joining us shortly here to answer any questions about this transition. If I move back to the timeline, you will see that our special programs will return on site the week of January 25th, and 12th grade will be on site on an alpha rotation with the 2 days per week. And then from there, we would move into 9th grade on alpha rotation, and then 10th and 11th. And Mr. Herder, can you please speak to the transition that will occur with the full 7-period day beginning January 25th?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Just want to make sure. Thank you. So with significant planning with both teachers, the building leaders, administrators, principals, and their teams at the high school level, we were able to put together a plan that allows for teachers and students to transition from first to second semester. We felt that it was important to meet the needs of all of our students, that students would be returning to a regularly scheduled day once we have students back on site, thus the 7-period per day schedule. So for all high school students, whether they're chose to be hybrid and on site 2 days a week or fully remote, they would follow that 7-period per day schedule, which is essentially the same as what our high school students have been used to in the past. The differences would be a 10-minute break in between each period, which adds up to a full hour a day. We feel that that is appropriate to allow students who are, especially those who are remote all day on Zoom, to be able to have those breaks in between classes to transition. And then of course, students have a lunch and many have an advisory period that provides an additional break to do additional work independently. That schedule will transition on the 25th. The chart that Superintendent Kinder showed prior to these last few slides would have 12th grade students back on site first. Of course, we would like to have all of our students back at the same time. The size of our schools make that logistically very difficult. And so we have a staggered return, working with 12th grade first for a few different reasons. One being that grade has missed, the spring of their junior year as well as the fall of their senior year. And of course, graduation is our number one priority for high school, for students to be set up for post-secondary success. And so on the 25th, that week would be when 12th graders return on site. The next week would be 9th graders would be added to the mix. And the following week, which is the week of the 8th of February, 10th and 11th graders would be added back on site based on this current proposed timeline, which means we basically have a 3-week window to transition all of our staff back on site, as well as all of the students who are hybrid learners. And that is essentially the plan for high school. The only other nuance that Superintendent Kinder was mentioning this would be that students who are remote, whether they're fully remote or if they're students who just happen to be home, so if they come to school in person on Tuesdays and Thursdays, on Wednesday and Friday, those students would also be at home, learning remotely. They will be Zooming into the classroom for live instruction. And while, of course, this presents a challenge for our educators and our students, it's a model that we've seen in many other districts, especially high schools in the area and around the country. And the real positive benefit of that is it means that students will have access to their teacher in all of their classes every day, some in person, some remote, but there will not be days where students don't have access to direct instruction from their teacher. And we felt that that was a high priority because while all of our students have different needs, every one of our learners is certainly unique. One of the major themes we've heard from students, especially, and parents and teachers was, we would like things to get as much as they can back to normal school. And normal school is going to class every day, seeing your teacher every day. And we feel that it's important for kids to get back into that routine. And of course, it will take some time. Our schools are ready to support our kids, whether they're on site or remote, given that there are some challenges with this format, of course, but we're excited to get the kids back on campus, and then for teachers to be seeing all their students every day, even though we're transitioning to a hybrid approach.
Okay, thank you very much. The middle school transition, similar to what we have planned before, and I will let Mr. Herder speak to this as well, we'll continue with a full remote model with 5 days of learning at week at home by preference or selection. And then we would begin our hybrid transition, which includes also a gradual return by grade level and 2 days on site based on the alpha of the last name, either a Tuesday, Thursday, or a Wednesday, Friday. And again, Mondays full remote with the whole class together virtually. And then this again is a blend of on-site learning and at-home learning. And our special programs, our self-contained programs, would be on site 4 days a week, following along with the general education program Tuesday through Friday.
Thank you. So just to add, middle school is similar to high school in a few ways. One is the format for instruction. So this model of having students both live in the classroom as well as remoting in from home, like we just discussed for high school, would be the same for middle school, which again means all middle school students would have access to every teacher for the classes they have every day. Similarly, students would attend Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday, meaning that at all levels, but middle school and high school students in the same family would be coming on the same days. The unique differences for middle school would be the staggered return. So again, we're working with a 3-week time period, beginning with 6th graders on the week of the 25th, and then 7th graders the week after that, and 8th graders subsequently the 3rd week of that transition. Students would be on site again 2 days a week if they chose the hybrid option. On Monday, all students would learn remotely, which would look similar to how things are now. the middle school schedule, even though students aren't on site yet, starting right after vacation on the 4th, the schedule is going to return to the true middle school schedule of a full block schedule each day. This gives our teachers not only a little bit more time, however, you'll notice that, like, for example, block 1 in the chart there is 80 minutes. That does not mean that middle school students are going to sit in each class for 80 minutes staring at their teacher teaching directly to them on Zoom 4 times a day. The way that will work is there will be instruction. There will also be support time for individual students or smaller groups of students while some kids work independently. And that's really our focus of professional learning with teachers, is how to, and our teachers are already very skilled at this to begin with, creatively use that 80 minutes block of time where doing some direct instruction, some student support time. So middle school families who are used to that support time at the end of the day, essentially that support time is just broken up into each class period. So kids would be able to get that support while still in that block, not having to wait to go back on at the end of the day and schedule time with a teacher. The schedule will function the same as our middle school students and families are used to. Kids will have their 2 days a week that they're on site if they chose hybrid, but all students, whether hybrid or remote, will still maintain the A-B curriculum rotation. And those in middle school are familiar with that. A and B days, essentially meaning on A days and B days, we have mathematics and English language arts. Courses like science and social studies rotate. So a student would have science on an A day, for example, and social studies on a B day. And while this calendar does show students having science 3 days and social studies only 2 days that week, keep in mind that AB does just continue to, so the next week they would have science twice and social studies 3 times. So over a 2-week period, that A and B rotation does equal out, both with our careers courses, as well as our science and social studies split. You can also see the lunchtime on there, so there will be a break for lunch for students who are learning remotely as well. And that's really the only unique differences for middle school compared to high school. So similar models, just some unique differences with the way classes are scheduled.
Thank you very much. Okay, our elementary school transition, again, will offer the full remote model by selection, and that's a continuation of the 5 days per week. There will be the process of rostering changes initiated so that we can have designated remote learning teachers assigned, and we'll have an adjustment of class rosters as required. The hybrid model is scheduled to begin on January 19th. I'd like to invite Executive Director of Pre-K 5, Jill Chukalis, to speak to the hybrid model and what parents can expect for the transition for our elementary students.
Sure. Hi, good evening. Ours is very similar to the middle school plan. So we have within our 5-day week, all Mondays are full remote. So students will be together, whether they're on an A schedule or a B schedule, they'll be together in one remote classroom with their teacher. And then we have an AB schedule similar to middle school, where on Tuesday, Thursday, students on the A schedule will attend full days. On the B schedule, students will be attending on Wednesdays and Fridays for full days. When students are not in school with the teacher, they are at-home learners and they are doing asynchronous learning, and they are also receiving small group instruction from our support staff, including our intervention enrichment coordinators, our reading recovery coordinators, and other supporting staff that will be pulling small groups. Our ESL, English as Second Language teachers, will be pulling their groups during that time as well. We will begin our model on January 19th. And our self-contained special education programs will be beginning with us this time. Previously, they transitioned separately, and this time they're going to transition with us. Many of the students in those programs push into our gen ed classrooms, and so we're going to keep them together for this transition.
I would just like to add that the kindergarten and first grade would be the first group to transition on site, and then the following week, very next week, second and third grade, and then followed by fourth and fifth grade. All right. And then our early childhood transition, again, continuation of what is currently in place for those who elect that, as well as the on-site model. And our phase transitions for early childhood will begin Monday, January 19th. And this is dependent on programming. We run a great deal of programs at our Dr. James Mitchum Early Childhood Center. And we would run a Monday through Thursday schedule for those programs, just as our families are accustomed to if they've been with us at the EC before. And Fridays are a focus on at-home learning and a focus on social emotional learning. And so for our early childhood families, in the programs, you can see that we have that designated the IEP students. Multi-needs and Stellar will be our first group to transition in the week of the 19th, followed by IEP students with multiple services and blended. And then the remainder of our programs will transition after that. And so, like with all of our levels and transitions, our parents can expect communication directly from their building or their program related to the transition and what to expect. So moving forward with our plans securely in place and with our wrapping up this week before break and then coming back into remote and then moving into our transition period, we of course are continuing to monitor the community health metrics, and this is a process of continued assessment, and this of course will continue over the next several weeks. I've shared this previously, and this is county level metric guidance in which we look at the levels of community transmission from minimal, moderate to substantial, and under each of those categories there's several metrics that we monitor. And there is alert levels defined on those metrics. This is not black and white. It merely creates a set of parameters for schools to use to determine the level of community transmission and then what that means for their reopening plans. And this includes things including the test positivity, the youth case number, the overall county case number, the weekly county case rate, and the alert level that's identified with that. Related to our Region 7, that includes Will and Kankakee counties, we're seeing a lower 7-day rolling average at 12.8% for our region as of December 11th. So that is good news. We are not below that 12% threshold. That's the threshold identified with consecutive days underneath that threshold to remove the increased mitigations that our region is currently under. So we are moving in that direction. So that's definitely a trend that we hope to see continue so that we can be in a place, as a good place as a region and as a county and our immediate area as well. This data here is a little bit older. It's accessed as recent as today, but it has only through week 49, which went through December 5th. So the positivity rate you see here at 16.6% test positivity, that has decreased in the time frame from December 5th to today, December 14th. So you'll see that in the next slides. It is at a substantial rate based on this time frame. And we are looking at the new cases per 100,000, which is still at a substantial rate as well. The new cases and the youth case increase, those metrics have lowered to a minimal rate, so that's a positive indication as well. We do continue to monitor at the zip code level. Our 7-day rolling average for our immediate zip codes, and those are noted at the top of the slide, is at 12.6%. And that's a decrease from where we were previous, the last updates that I've provided. And there's our 14-day rolling average at 13.3%. So we have seen a decrease in those areas as well. This slide presents kind of a graphic view of how these indicators have trended over time since, with the starts and stops and the plans that we have had and then had to pause. The red shading indicates that at a substantial level. And what we're seeing then is some of the metrics are showing some signs that the recent surge that we saw is waning, particularly the 7-day rolling averages. However, the case counts do remain high, and we're continuing to watch that, and we're seeing some trends start to inch upward. So that second column shows you a trend line over the past 30 days, and you can see we had that large spike, that surge, and then you see that we had a decrease and then some leveling out. So this is something that we will, of course, continue to monitor and ensure that we are in a good position to begin our transition plan. And that, of course, we will have continued communication to our families, to our staff, so that our students can be prepared for what to expect, and our staff can be prepared as well. We are continuing to ask our staff and our families to report, and so the current known reported cases of staff and students has certainly decreased. Of course, we cannot be certain that that means that there is an actual decrease or if there's just a decrease in reporting, but it is good practice, and it is informative to us to let us know the impact of COVID on the families in our community, our staff members and their families. From a health and safety perspective, and also from just the ability to attend. If we have a high number of students in quarantine or a high number of staff in quarantine, that certainly is high impact in our district. So we continue to monitor this. I feel very confident in the systems and the protocols that we've developed, and our staff has been working very hard to implement. So this will put us in a good place to have a handle on what the impact is in our immediate school district. I mentioned the known staff positive cases in isolation, as well as known staff and students in quarantine. And so, yes, we have seen a decrease from what we were seeing around the time of the surge in the community, and we will continue to monitor. When we return, when we come together in person on site, we will have reminders to our family about the process for symptom screening and certification. If families have not yet received that information via mail, and that would be our high school families, you will be receiving that prior to the transition. And we will continue to communicate this because it's truly an effort, a partnership between school and home to ensure that we are monitoring our own symptoms and the symptoms of those in our care, and doing that on a regular basis. These are really good habits to be in the regular practice of doing, so that when we come back on site, we can have the best chance of being healthy and safe, and not just opening our doors, but keeping our doors open. And as we move into the holiday season, just a reminder, you're hearing it all over. I know people are tired. I know they're tired of hearing it. I know people want things to be back to normal, and they want their normal holiday traditions. But I just wanted to emphasize that our behaviors and what we do over the holiday season, over the winter break, will have an impact on not just our families, but the larger communities. And just a reminder to avoid crowds and large gatherings, practice the 3 Ws, wear your face and mask covering, watch your distance, wash your hands. If your family must travel, please follow the guidelines and recommendations of the Illinois Department of Public Health and the CDC. It is truly important that we are doing everything we possibly can to bring those levels of community transmission down and ensure that we can open our schools and keep them open. And that is truly what we all want. We want our staff together, we want our students together, and we want to be able to do what we know we can do best in person, and that's support our kids. There will be additional communication coming from the building level or program level prior to the transitions, and we will have an update at the board meeting on January 11th. At that time, we will be in a period of full remote, but we will be preparing for that transition the following week, that Tuesday after the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, so that's January 19th. I do want to remind the community that we have a wealth of resources, community resources available that we are here to connect you to. We have information on our website, and you can certainly reach out for help with anything from technology to food to other community resources or support. We know that in normal circumstances, the holidays can be a very challenging time for families, and we want you to know that we will connect you and support you in however we possibly can. Our Meals to Go nutrition services program will not be operating over winter break, but we have 2 pickups scheduled this week, Tuesday, December 15th, and Thursday, December 17th, where we will provide meal kit of 7-day supply of food at the pickups this week, and then we will resume the regular service on Tuesday, January 5th. So we encourage our community to take a full advantage of that and feed our kiddos. So I am open to any questions that you may have. We have staff available on the virtual side of the board meeting as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I do have one question, Rachel. How many days, consecutive days, do we have to be under 12%?
Are you talking about for the reduced mitigations?
Oh,
I want to say it is I want to confirm, give me one moment. Okay, for the mitigations to be relaxed and move to tier 2, we have to be at less than 12% for the 7-day rolling average and 3 consecutive days, and then greater than 20% available intensive care unit and med-surg beds for the 3-day rolling average. So they look at all 3 of those, but it's that 7-day rolling average. They just kind of don't look at the 1 day of data. They're looking for that to be over a period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do. First of all, I want to say to Becky and Alice, you guys are not alone. I'm hearing a lot of what you guys are telling us. I hear you, and I know everybody hears what you're saying. And I also have been listening to CDC, IDHP, ISBE, and even Dr. Fauci was on TV the other day saying kids need to be in school. They should be in school. So when does second semester start?
January 19th.
Oh, I thought it was right when we came back.
No, we come back on January 4th, and the second semester does not start until January 19th.
Oh, okay. Finals are after Christmas this time?
They are.
Oh, okay. So I can see where in the high school that it would be a little tough to transition a little. It would take a little longer to transition because they're going to be getting new classes second semester. A lot of them will have different teachers in different classes. But I know the grade school, I'm pretty sure the grade school kids will have the same teachers in the same classes, and it seems like the middle school would too, have the same teachers in the same classes. So I was just wondering why we're waiting. I know we pushed it back. They were gonna, a week or 2 or 3 in some instances for some of these students to begin. I thought we were gonna, in August, I really wanted us to get going in August because I was afraid that it was gonna keep getting pushed back like this. And so the last meeting I was at, I praised everybody because it sounded like we had a lot of the details together and we were ready to go. And then I looked at this one and I saw that we're being pushed back even farther than the last one was again. And it concerns me because I know there's a lot of parents that want their kids in school. And I know we're trying to be cautious, and I know we want to keep people safe, and that is the goal. But there are a lot of people that are ready to go. And with the numbers that Becky presented in the 99.992, I think was one of the numbers she presented, there are a lot of healthy people that are going to be okay. The ones that aren't, I don't want to push anybody that doesn't want to be here to be here. But for those that are healthy and want to be here, I want us to do our best to get them here as soon as possible for all those other reasons. And Becky did a good job in her presentation. I really am worried that we're going to keep pushing this back. I heard someone say today that we might not even get back till 2022. And that really, I couldn't understand how anybody could even say that now we're not going to do, and it wasn't not anybody here, it was just somebody on TV that was saying that we're not going to get back to opening businesses and schools until 2022. And that just does not make sense to me. Definitely protect the ones that need to be protected, but those that are healthy, we need to get back to life and to get these kids educated, most definitely. I see the format that we're using today with us here on the panel and a screen where we could see everybody else and then support people around us. In a classroom, you might not have all of those supports unless you have some special needs kids, but to me, it seems like this format we're using right here would be wonderful. That if a teacher was teaching, that some kids could be there, and I thought Adam was saying that this was going to happen in high schools, but I would think that at all levels, it would be great. It would take a little adjustment for some of the teachers, but I would think that you could do it together. You can have a screen with some people on a screen, and then you can have people live, exactly like we're doing right now. And we could do that as soon as possible, and those that need to be at home can be at home, and those that want to be there and can be there, do it safely exactly like we're doing right now, right here. I would love to see that. Adam, my question to you is, do I have that right? Is it the different levels are going to, like elementary, I know a lot of parents were concerned with the asynchronization part of the learning where they were not in contact with a teacher. And would this format not work for them as well? Question.
Member Gilbo, just to clarify, middle and high school will be running a simultaneous model of in-person learners in the classroom and then students remotely who are being live streamed in for 6 through 12. And in some cases, in some of our special programs, had been doing that previously, as well as some of our targeted support kids. At elementary school and working with the teachers and working with the leaders, we determined that that was not the best model for elementary and in fact would present even greater challenges. So elementary will not, for the general rule, be doing live streaming with having, students in the classroom and students live streaming in at the same time. And we'll have designated teachers for supporting our littlest learners in our elementary schools.
Thanks for that explanation. Let's see if I had another question here. I thought I had one more. No, I don't think I do. Just the concern is the same as the parents that presented today, that I really, really would like to see us go forward. I know that in the community, I actually even saw this on our parent Facebook page where somebody said, what am I going to do? I have to work and my kids are at home. I need somewhere for them to be. And I was just dumbfounded by the answer because it just blew me away. They said, you can go to the recreation department. They have an excellent program where they have the daycare where the kids are going there and it wasn't even daycare, it was a program. Well, I guess it is a daycare, a program where the kids are there and they're doing what they need to do. And it's an excellent program, which I'm not taking anything away from them. I think that is awesome. But then I questioned and I said, well, why aren't we doing that? And that just kind of bothered me a little. Why can't we do that if the daycares and the recreation department and the Catholic schools are doing it? And I have talked to people in the Catholic schools, and they have their ups and downs. They have some kids that have COVID and they have to quarantine, and some teachers that have it and they have to quarantine, but then they come right back and they do what they need to do with the ones that are there and when they could do it. I would love to see us go forward and follow those same models. And I don't want this to sound negative or anything like that, but I just think that we're just as good as those people and that we can do it just as well as them. I would love to see us be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gilbo. We certainly want that as well. Being a large unit district with many large buildings, we do have challenges that are unique that maybe a small school district or a private school would not encounter or would be easier to manage in a smaller setting. So there are some unique challenges, and just in collaborating with other large unit districts in our immediate area in our region, they have many of the same challenges and are frankly in a very similar position that we are here in Valley View. So we certainly want that as well. And we are in a position to provide that. We unfortunately can't control things that are going on in community transmission, but to a certain extent we can, and I think we are on track to work toward that return in January. And there's promising news with vaccinations becoming available now. School staff are not yet in the line for distribution with those, but they've begun, and we know that they will be coming around very shortly. It will be a long time before that's available to our students and to the general population as a whole, but still promising news. So we know we can work toward that, and that's another tool in our arsenal. And our staff is working very hard to not only maintain what's going on with remote learning, and I certainly know it can never replace in person, but we're also preparing, and we will be prepared to make that transition, and that is certainly our hope to do so.
Thank you. I too want to see us back in school. I got a son who's chomping at the bit, who's a senior, who has been cheated out of the last half of a junior year and the first half of a senior year. Matter of fact, right before I walked over here, or walked in today, he called me and said, "When are we going back, Dad? I'm ready to roll." I also have family members of mine who have suffered through COVID. Unfortunately, not too severely, but we have a big community that we have to represent, and we have to respect the needs of everybody. We have to balance all that out. We have to take what's best for the kids, all in, and I don't think there's a person in this district who doesn't want what's best for the kids. And I think there's a responsibility factor from the students to the teachers to the families that we all have to do our part to make sure that when we do come back in these buildings, that we know we're going to have problems. There's no question. So I don't want, to show up here and say, "Oh my God, my son got sick," or something. We know we're going to have problems. And same thing with staff. We know there's going to be some problems. It's how we manage it once those problems occur. So we need to everybody's going to have to buckle down a little harder for a little longer. But we get back, especially when we get back in the buildings, and we're just going to have to redouble our efforts. As you said, the 3 W's. I work for a major corporation, and they have told people, don't come in here if you don't need to be in here, and if you are here, make sure you got this on, these are and stay 6 feet apart. It seems to be working. I hope that people understand that, but once we get back into these buildings, the efforts of the people who are in those buildings, and that includes the littlest ones to the oldest ones, everybody's got to do their part. So thank you for all the efforts that have gone on to this so far. And I do echo some of the sentiment of the folks that came up and spoke today. But there's nobody who wants to get these kids back in the building. I think the kids want to be back in the building more than you're never going to see a kid in the near future say, "Oh, I don't think I want to go to school." I think they really want to get back in. And we understand the social aspect of this. So thank you for your comments, everyone, and ladies who came up and spoke tonight. Much appreciated. Where are we at? 12.4, elementary guided reading component. Ms. White, I believe.
I'm trying to make sure I'm unmuted. Hello again. So this information is being presented for the review of the Fontes and Pinnell classroom guided reading component for grades K through 5. This includes the purchase of teacher editions and student books from Fontes and Pinnell. A summary of the background and rationale is below, and I will highlight a little bit of it, but I'm extremely excited about it. So this purchase and this curriculum will align with our strategic goal 1, which is college and career learners, and strategy 1, which is curriculum and assessment. Some additional background information we're going to prepare to present to you, but I just want to highlight a couple of things that this came about and began in the spring when our executive director, Jill Tsoukalis, and her team, Nicole Coulihan, presented the need for shared reading. That was approved then. That was stage 1, and the guided reading is stage 2. And I would like to invite them up as we begin this presentation, and they're here. Hi, Nicole, and hi, Jill Tsakalis. We also have a couple of teachers where this program was piloted. We have Janetta Peterson with us and Mallory Castor, both from BJ Ward. So I'd like to invite them and turn it over to them as we present to you a little bit more information about this Fontes and Pinnell guided reading curriculum.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, President Quigley, members of the board, senior leadership, and members of the community. Tonight, I'm very excited to share some exciting curriculum work that the teachers at BJ Ward have been invested in. I'd like to thank Janetta and Mallory for accepting the invitation to present virtually with me tonight. Since August of 2019, the kindergarten and first grade teams have been engaged in piloting all of the components of Fontes Pinnell Classroom. Fontes Pinnell Classroom is a cohesive, multi-text approach to literacy instruction for all students in grades K through 5. The system is designed to support whole group, small group, and independent learning opportunities. Last winter, our team brought shared reading before the board, and I'd like to thank you for approving a resource for our students and staff. Since the approval, we have remotely trained 142 teachers, and that was all remotely. After every professional development session, we collect feedback from the teachers, and we've done a lot of learning and adjusting to support the virtual setting. And I'd like to share just one comment from a first grade teacher after attending the shared reading. All of you, especially Rosie Leal, deserve praise for presenting a lot of content and training efficiently. I haven't been this impressed with a training or class since the 4-day responsive training classes. I was also impressed with the level of engagement of all the participants. All the teachers were highly engaged throughout and made the breakout rooms engaging as well. It helped bring out the best in everyone. Everyone was very positive while having their own opinions. Reading these articles, I felt like the schools, that's what I want. So I'm very optimistic and with the direction of the district, and I look forward to training with our VVSD team. So overall, and despite the challenges of remote learning, teachers and students are loving the shared reading materials that they have in their hands currently. So if we're looking at slide 2, today we are here to present the work that has surrounded the guided reading portion of Fontes and Pinnell Classroom. Today's request falls under Strategy 1 in the strategic plan, and that supports the implementation of high quality resources to help all learners become college, career, and life ready. This specific resource supports small group differentiated instruction. Next slide, please. The need for this resource has been evident since grade level rep meetings last winter, this fall, and even most recently this afternoon. At today's meeting, we took a poll and 90% of the grade level reps indicated that they were lacking guided reading materials that support both the remote and on-site settings. We are in a special instructional space that we need virtual and hands-on text in our students' hands. This resource is full of diverse text that can be accessed remotely or on-site. Next slide, please. So teachers at all the levels have been requesting instructional resources to complete the literacy block, and they have successfully added the K2 whole group learning experience with the implementation of shared reading with phonics. But today we're here to discuss the need for more support for the small group portion of the literacy block with the guided reading resources. Next slide, please. The balanced literacy approach is meant to be responsive to students' needs in a variety of ways. There are opportunities for students to engage in all sorts of learning environments, which include whole group, small group, and individualized learning. These are just the 6 principles of the Fontes Pinnell Classroom, and these are why we chose this program. The instructional coherence speaks to how this curriculum speaks to our intervention system and also our assessment system. Responsive teaching, and in this system, you teach individual readers and not a program. One of the principles is provides multi-text approach with authentic text, and the guided reading collections have over 200 titles per grade level with multiple varieties of levels and genres. It's about student inquiry. It has multiple language-based supports, even intentional talk structures within the lessons. And it really relies on the teacher's expertise of the teacher making the decisions that best meet the learners. Next slide, please. So just to speak a little bit about guided reading is small group instruction with texts that are at the student's instructional reading level. Instruction is differentiated to the individual student's needs, strengths, and needs. And again, the collection has about 200 titles and a variety of levels. It comes with 6 copies of each title, in addition to online resources for both student and teachers. Each lesson has folders that help provide the teachers throughout the lessons as well. Next slide, please. We know that guided reading is important because it's the small group component of balanced literacy. So it supports readers in expanding their processing competencies. It provides a context for responsive teaching, and it allows students to engage in a variety of texts with the teacher side by side. It also helps students learn to think like proficient readers, and it enables students to tackle more challenging texts with support. This is an example of the teacher side, and Mallory and Janetta will speak a little bit more to this in a little bit, but this is how this resource is a little bit different from other resources in the fact that it has intentional structures for teachers for questioning, and it also links back to the shared reading components that we previously purchased as well as the phonics program. This is just go ahead, next slide, thank you. So this is a quick video about, it's actually a virtual guided reading lesson. It's very, very quick. We can kind of watch it about some of our students in our district, and some interventionists and reading recovery teachers are leading this.
We're going to see if they win and how they win if they do.
Let's watch him for a while. He's not quick enough. He's not quick, he said. He's not very quick, he said.
Good job fixing, Ben. What are we learning about Rex? Who can describe them?
Like, he's like a bully, really, like kind of mean.
Hang on 1 second. Gio, go ahead, sweetie. You said he's a bully?
He like grabs stuff without asking.
Okay, good, because I was going to ask you how you knew he was a bully. Okay, because that's great, Gio. The text didn't tell us he was a bully. They showed us, right? So they grabbed things from other people like milk money and desserts, right? What was another example of how he was a bully?
He grabbed the ball from his own teammate.
Okay, he grabbed the ball. There was another big thing that was included.
He Ryan had a cast from him.
Yep. Okay, so he hurt Ryan.
Can you clap the word computer?
Computer.
Good. Today, Dylan, this is our special letter today. It is your special letter too. You know why this is your special letter?
It's D.
It's D, and this is our letter of the day.
Around like a C. Oh.
Okay, circle the one you think looks the best.
Oh, I found my one.
That was a video from some of our interventionists and reading recovery coordinators. They were using the LLI books to do some guided reading. If we purchase the collection of the guided readings for the teachers will have access to all of those books to project for students, and they will also have the on-site resources. So this is some of the data that shows from kindergarten and first grade, some levels of proficiency from last fall to last winter. Weren't able to show any data from this year due to COVID. Please. On this slide, you'll see that there's been a 20% increase in the students' levels of proficiency from fall to winter. And we did take some quotes about what the teachers were saying, but I would love for Mallory and Janetta to kind of just speak to some of the things that you love about the guided reading and how it's impacting your students' learning.
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Mallory Castor, and this is my 15th year in Valley View and at BJ Ward. My first 11 years were spent as a second grade gen ed classroom teacher, and this is now my 4th year serving as a special ed teacher supporting kindergarten and first grade students. 2 years ago, BJ Ward, our kindergarten and first grade teams were lucky enough to travel to Morton, Illinois, and observe their school district because they had recently adopted the Fontes and Pinnell or FPC curriculum. Last year was our first full year that both of our teams were able to pilot many of the different components of the FPC program. One of the things I wanted to first reiterate is this is not something new for teachers. Guided reading has been a part of our district for over 15 years. I've been doing it every single year, whether I'm in second grade, kindergarten, first grade. We're just realizing now that we don't have the resources. And getting the FPC guided reading program is giving the teachers the resources so that we're not having to spend so much time going to find our own materials. I truly do believe that this resource would be beneficial for all teachers, whether they're new or old. Not only is it providing resources to all of our teachers, but for our new teachers, it's allowing them to really master an understanding of the different elements of a guided reading program. Nicole had mentioned the file folder that you get with each text of the program. This file folder lays everything out for teachers. It guides them through a book introduction. It guides them through different prompts and teaching points to use while you're using the book. It talks about how you can extend that learning with the students after the lesson. This is something that's really going to help new teachers gain a better understanding of what goes into a guided reading program. For our veteran teachers like myself, it also gives us new ideas. After teaching guided reading for 15 years, sometimes we kind of get into the same routine, and this just kind of opened our eyes of different things that we could add to our small group learning. Currently, Valley View already has the LLI intervention program, which special ed teachers, our intervention and enrichment coordinators, and our reading recovery teachers use. Having the FPC guided reading program would build that connection between this intervention program and the classroom core curriculum. Whereas the LLI is a very systematic program where our interventionists are given a sequence of lessons, like start on lesson 1, lesson 2. The FPC guided reading program is very responsive to the student needs. Teachers know their students best, and they know that no student is the same from year to year. So they have the ability to go in and really select the text and the teaching points that will best meet the needs of their students currently. Lastly, this year I've been given the opportunity to kind of explore different grade levels of the RFPC program, since I'm working with both kindergarten and first grade. And I've really seen how the Fontes Pinnell has really focused the programs to the specific needs of the grade level. For example, in kindergarten, they have so many texts at that beginning level A reading level. That's really because those students need more time to develop those concepts of print, understanding where the cover of the book is, pointing one-to-one with the text. Whereas when we move into the first grade program, it's very specific to the first grade levels. They do have those early reading levels for certain students who need that review or extra intervention, but it focuses really on the levels and the developmental needs of our first graders. And now Janetta will talk a little bit more about the specifics.
Hi, I'm Janetta Peterson. I've been teaching for 21 years, 18 of those years in the district, mostly first grade at BJ Ward. And I was lucky enough to be able to pilot the entire program of FPC last year before we went remote. I have nothing but positive things to say about this entire program. Many of the things that I've noticed about the guided reading program for FPC, as Mallory had mentioned, I too have, as long as I've been teaching, have been teaching guided reading. That's not new to us. But I remember, and BJ Ward has always had a wonderful book room. I remember just grabbing those levels of books that I needed for my groups and opening up the book and realizing, wow, this is not a level C. It's too easy, or it's too difficult, or it doesn't have the teaching points that I need. And that is not true about the FBC guided reading books. Those books are very, very accurately leveled. Excuse me. I also got the opportunity to notice some of the connections between our whole group and our guided reading last year as I was piloting it. I was using one of our shared reading books in our mini lesson. And as I'm teaching, as soon as I opened up to this page of the book, hands just started popping up in my classroom, not even realizing that earlier that week, one of my guided reading groups read a book that had similar content. And right away, they were able to connect to that same animal, that same insect that was in our whole group shared reading lesson. So the content is very similar. They're able to make that connection, and they're very engaged in their guided reading books if they're able to remember something we had read previously that week, and right away it was in the top of their mind. I also love the variety of nonfiction and fiction books that are offered throughout this entire program. With the fiction books, we have many books that have similar characters. So for instance, I was reading this book with one of my groups, and we met the character Bear. During his nap, we noticed how cranky he gets when he gets interrupted by his friends. So later on, as they grew to different levels, we brought back that same character, and they had that prior knowledge about him, and they were able to make that connection from text to text. So we do have many, many characters that reappear throughout the level, so they're able to make that connection. Our students in our classroom place these books in their book boxes. So these books remain with them, and during their self-selected reading time, their group time where they get to read independently, they choose to pull these books out and share them with their friends. And we did get a chance last year to see them mimicking our lessons. So sometimes they like to pretend they're the teacher, and the conversations we had during our guided reading groups, they were doing with their friends. So it was very interesting to see that. So with these books being in their book boxes for a period of time, we shared this collection among 3 teachers. So Mrs. Castor, myself, and another teacher shared one entire collection. We had no problem sharing, and they actually had to keep these in their book boxes for a pretty good amount of time. Excuse me. Mallory had mentioned the cards. These cards are a huge asset for us. And not only they have the discussion in them with to introduce the text, throughout the text, after the text, it's common language. So the students are hearing common language while we're teaching our guided reading. These are the same kind of lesson cards they see during our shared reading and also during our assessments. So they're hearing that same language during our benchmark assessments, during our whole group lessons, and in their small group lessons, also during guided reading. I mentioned earlier that I was lucky enough to use this before we went remote, but I'm also lucky enough to use this program while we are remote. So I have from day one used the entire program in my classroom. I recently started using the guided reading, and I don't know how I would teach guided reading without it. It's a click of a button. And if anyone knows me, they know that I'm very not so good with technology, so it's been quite a time. And just being able to click the button, share the screen, and I can teach guided reading to the best of my abilities right now virtually. This is also available to us. The lesson cards are available online. Once you have the code for the books, the lesson plans are there also. So if we do happen to ever come across the time where we're not able to go in our classroom, the cards are not in our hands, but they are there for us remotely also. So we have that common language, those guides for us at our fingertips. I believe that most teachers would love and appreciate this resource at their fingertips as soon as possible. Does anyone have any other questions?
I know some back in the day that they had is this part of the program when they had went out there and actually went to there, I think back when Dr. Van Winkle was, is this something that they've just updated or new? Because I know we did go out there, as a district. Is this just something newer that they're doing now?
FBC, go ahead.
Go ahead,
No.
Okay, FB, Fondas and Pinnell, since since BJ Ward has been opened, Fontes and Pinnell has always been, I guess, what we've been trained in. We've had different resources, but it was never a program like this. This program was just recently created by Fontes and Pinnell. And you can buy the components separately, but they all fit together.
Okay.
Thank you all.
I have something, Steve, if you don't mind. Is it okay? Or were you gonna?
Yeah, go ahead. No, we're gonna ask anybody any questions. Go ahead.
Okay, I thought you were ending here. I just wanted to say thank you. I was invited over to BJ Ward to observe, and it was kind of neat to see. And one thing that I did see that I was impressed with and thought maybe potentially in the future we could expand upon was your, I believe it's called ELL, the Spanish-speaking kids. We're also using the program. Am I correct on that? In
Yes, you're
kindergarten
correct.
or first grade? Yeah, they were, right? And so they were learning English, and it was a hybrid of English-Spanish class, right? So part of it was in Spanish and part of it was in English. And it was for kids that were not real proficient in speaking English. And at that young age, I thought it would be really nice, because you had the materials in both languages, if I remember right, if we could take English-speaking children and mix them with the Spanish-speaking children so that they are learning Spanish at that young age as well. I thought that would be really nice if you could use this program, since we have, it sounds like we're asking to buy the materials to be able, and it's the foreign language as well, correct? We have Spanish-speaking books, Spanish.
The FPC has not come out with the Spanish component yet.
That's what I meant, the component.
Did see was teachers were using some, we had purchased some Spanish books for students to use. They have their own components. They have their own Spanish guided reading books also. They teach Spanish Monday through Thursday, and then they teach in English on Fridays. So they do use the Fontes Pinnell classroom resources on Friday. They teach that in English to bridge the two languages together.
I see, so the Fontes Pinnell is just in English, but not in Spanish as well. I see. Okay. Yeah, but it would be kind of neat to have English-speaking students at that young age learning Spanish along with, that would be kind of neat to see.
Any other comments? Moving down the agenda, board policies, 14.3, Ms. White. Thank you, ladies, for the great, very good presentation, by the way.
Thank you so
I
much.
was just about to say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You all, great job. All right. All right, moving on. Sorry, I lost my place. So, yes, for information, board policies 4.180 in reference to pandemic preparedness. Board policy 6.340 in reference to student testing and assessment program. 7.40 part-time attendance by private parochial homeschool students. 7.315 restrictions on publications, high schools. And then finally 8.95 parental involvement. So the following policies again have been updated to school code and press by our legal counsel as well. And just for information, review prior to approval next time.
Thank you. Ms. Nash, of course, if anybody has questions between now and the next board meeting when these are up there, for clarification, you can talk to staff and or legal counsel. Liz is over there waving her hand, so thank you. Ms. Nash.
Similarly, there are 4 board policies for human resources for your review. 5.190 professional teacher qualifications, 5.310 educational support personnel compensatory time off, 5.210 professional personnel resignations and retirement, and 5.70 religious holidays. If you have any questions prior to the next board meeting, feel free to reach out to me or Ms. Wagman for any questions regarding the press recommendations or updates.
Thank you. Gary, I'm assuming since Joanne's not here?
Yes, correct. I told her I should be able to cover this. As we do annually, she prepares an investment report, just giving the board and community an idea of how we fare in our investments. You'll see listed there the investment type and duration, the book value, market value, and yield, along with some a benchmark yield to provide some context. Again, all of the investments done in our guiding objectives of safety first, right? Don't want to put anything anything at risk. Liquidity is second on our list. Return on investment is third, and certainly diversification. As you can see, we've got some pretty wide-ranging diversification of investments there. We talk about certificates of deposit being insured up to $250,000. Anything greater than that would be collateralized with home loan banks, letters of credit, government securities, and third-party insurance. We've got 79% of the portfolio invested in Illinois investment pools or interest-bearing savings accounts, and 21% in certificates of deposit. Right now, interest rates, I don't need to remind you, are pretty paltry. Until this pandemic runs its course, will remain significantly lower than they were prior to the pandemic. The investment yield for the grand total of our portfolio is at a 0.41, which compares last year at this time we were at a 1.84, and so it wasn't that long ago, it seems. I remember investment returns in the 5% range or greater. So anyway, it represents 0.68% of our revenue. And so again, it doesn't seem that long ago where it was a rather significant portion of our revenue. Now we certainly can't count on it. But again, just some information as we provide annually.
Thank you, Garrett. School report card. Is that Nita?
Yep, absolutely.
Every time you move up there, the screen changes. You go to a different location.
Here I am.
Thank you.
All right. So yes, this is the last part of the presentation with the school report card in October. I brought part of this to you whereby I explained that the state had come up with since we did not test this year, they came up with some additional criteria and some warnings in reference to our school report card. In October, I brought to you the school improvement plans. And so right now I'm bringing the last part, which is to review our school report card, which was released on October 31st of this school year. Okay, so go ahead, next slide, please. As I presented partially in October, the Illinois school report card could be accessed. Well, so just to review again, I've already talked about some of this, but COVID certainly impacted our results and impacted our metrics. And you will see throughout this presentation in the corner, there will be a message that this could potentially be impacted by COVID. So I definitely wanted to highlight that again. So next slide, please. You can log on to the Illinois School Report Card by going to illinoisreportcard.com, and you'll find the Valley View report card there with our schools. Simply search our district. That's another way in which you could log on to the report card. Again, at the very top, you see possible data impact due to COVID-19. Next slide, please. So as I've already talked about before, our metrics certainly were impacted due to the pandemic and last spring and us closing down. Next slide, please. There's really, I've already explained that. So the areas that were impacted, of course, we're going to talk about as I go through early college coursework, freshmen on track, attendance, et cetera, as I go through the slides. So this is how it's going to appear on our Valley View report card. This is the dashboard. Next thank you. Next slide, please. So this is the trends in our data. The light green will show our district and the dark green will highlight the state. Next slide, please. All right, so positive news is that we have seen a 7-point gain in our 4-year graduation rate. So that's something to certainly celebrate, and noting that in 2020, a 92% graduation rate versus the state at 88%. So that's a positive. We've risen. Also, our 9th grade on track. Another positive note that we've risen by 10. And this year we were at 95%, last year at 92%. So despite the type of year we've had, our freshmen on track, 9th grade, has risen. So that's another positive note. Thank you. Total participation in college coursework has also improved, gone up from 43.8 to 47%, another positive. And again, remember that all of this data still impacted by COVID. Just want to highlight that message that's at the corner of our screen. Number of students earning AP college credit, scoring 3 or higher on at least one AP exam has increased by 188 students over the last 3 years. So you can see where we were in 18 and where we are in 2020. 1,095 students. So again, very positive. That continues to increase. Next slide, please. Percentage of Valley View students enrolled in college fell for the first time in 3 years. We're certainly, again, impacted by COVID, but we're trying to understand perhaps, why this trend is happening. And it is going to be our goal to continue on a more positive trajectory as we were in the previous years. But again, it's one of our goals to dig a little bit deeper. Next slide, please. 8th grade algebra rates, maybe a little bit lower. However, if you look at in the past from 2016, 17, we remained steady in 18, 19, and again, could have fallen this year. And again, could be impacted by COVID for the 8th grade algebra rates. Next slide, please. Chronic absenteeism rates. We were on par with the state in 2018, and we were even below the state in 2019. In 2020, again, you see a significant increase, although again, the data was impacted by COVID. I would like to talk a little bit about the absenteeism and then the next screens with the chronic truancy. When we first shut down in March, as you know, it was very quick. And at that time, we were continuing to count attendance in the traditional way in which we counted. However, at that time, the state is a little ambiguous as to how we should have counted students in March, April, and May. And it was just unclear. And so we continued to count in the traditional way. And it turns out that the state had really relaxed. And we found out that other districts were counting students in a more relaxed way, again, because those guidelines were unclear from ISB at that time. Since then, we certainly have received clear guidelines, and we've certainly aligned our policies with the states and approached attendance in a supportive manner all around at all of our school sites. So we should certainly see better trends next year. This is our chronic absenteeism for the subgroups. You can go on to the next screen, truancy. Again, as I explained with the very first screen, a little bit higher with all of our groups. Okay, the new report card metrics. This is different. I reported on this in October, that we had a few metrics that had never been measured before by ISB that were measured for the first time, and it had to do with kindergarten readiness. So basically 95% of our students did take the kindergarten readiness exam because this was administered prior to the shutdown. Next page. This demonstrates how our students scored within the 3 areas that they measure: social and emotional development, language and literacy development, and math. Again, our district is in green and the state is in dark green. Another new metric, brand new on our school report card, is the students who are assessed for gifted. Again, our number is a little different because we assess in the first grade. And so that's how it was measured, with the number of students who were assessed in grade 1 in Valley View. And you can advance to the next page. I've already talked about this last month's presentation when we talked about the school designations and ESSA school improvement funds, and provided those reports and how we fare across our district. Just to remind everybody, we do have 2 schools that are exemplary. The remainder of our schools are commendable, and we have the 1 school targeted assistance, and we have submitted all plans, and they just came for action tonight that you approved for those school improvement plans in order to receive those school improvement funds. And that is the school report card for 2020. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Diane, go ahead. I see your finger up.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself.
Sorry.
I was just wondering, when the metric where it talked about kindergarten readiness and how it's increased, how many kids transition from early childhood into our kindergarten? Like, how many 4-year-olds, how many kids go into kindergarten?
That's a very good question, Diane, and I do not have the answer to that. I do have a couple people here. Michael Lacasio is our assessment coordinator, and I'm not sure, is Mary's on the call? She was earlier, no?
So I guess my question kind of
No other
primarily
response
is
to that?
do we think that the increase in that metric is due to our early childhood center and our kids coming out of there? I mean, I'm sure it has some impact, but I guess I'm curious as to how many kids are enrolled in early childhood, 4-year-olds that graduate into kindergarten, compared to all of the kids who go into kindergarten.
I'll have to find out that information for you. That's a very good question. We'll find out the numbers, how many are going from 4 to 5 years.
Thank you.
It's actually a pretty small percentage of the overall kindergarten class, even though we have had an expansion. However, we can provide you with some additional follow-up on that data. And what you see in the new metrics, one of those was the percentage of students assessed with the kids assessment, so that doesn't really speak to readiness. And then the other that is displayed is on how the students are coming in at what level of readiness with social, emotional, language, and literacy development and math. And that fluctuates every year, but relatively speaking, that is an area that we as a district need to further continue to support. That's an area of opportunity in working with our community partners and our families for birth to 3 readiness, and then continued support at the early childhood level, because there is a whole huge area of opportunity there for us as a district.
So does every child coming into kindergarten have to take that kid's readiness?
Yes, and that's an observational instrument. So that's not like a multiple choice test or anything of that nature. That is teachers working very hard to collect data through observation or interaction with the child, or through products that speaks to the clear levels of indicators and readiness that a child would have developmentally, academically, socially coming into kindergarten to be prepared. So we do have the benefit of working with our own early childhood program, as well as opportunity to continue to work with community partners, with daycare and preschool, and then it goes back even farther than that with birth to 3. And so that's an area of future growth for us as a district, and continued growth. Pre-K expansion was huge for us as a district, and we want to continue to build that, and then also continue to support that with the birth through 3, and increasing not just academic readiness, but social, emotional, developmental readiness. It's so critical in those early years, and it's very hard to recoup when students don't come at a level of readiness. It takes a long time to build that. So that's definitely an area of something that we'd like to continue to discuss further with the board in the future.
I have a question also. I do have a concern about that and the math part of it, and also with the algebra math being a little lower than the state. So that's something I'd like to see us also look further into, as to what what's happening. Maybe it's COVID, I don't know. But that does concern me also.
Well, that number that you saw for the 2020 Fall Kids Assessment for math readiness, the majority of those students are students that had not been in the Valley View system. And that's in assessing their early knowledge of numeracy, number awareness, are they able to count, things of that nature. And so those things, obviously our kindergarten teachers tackle right away and in pre-K, but that's what I was speaking to with the opportunity with community, huge. And then in terms of the 8th grader, algebra readiness, I'm gonna pull that back.
Yeah.
Adam, did you want to?
I've looked into that, and of course, that is the number of students who are basically participating in our 8th grade or enrolled in our 8th grade algebra course. It has fallen a little bit. Of course, those students are passing and going on to 9th grade and the next level of mathematics, but I will be doing some investigating as to why that number is decreasing with the number of students who have been enrolled in that 8th grade algebra and those 8th grade, in that 8th grade algebra.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Anybody else have anything else? All right. Moving down the agenda, legal services report. No report. AFT report. No report. Valley View Council report. No report. Valley View Office Personnel Council. Apparently no report. Any old business before the board this evening? Any new business before the board? Hearing none, seeing none. Any questions from the public on actions we have taken this evening? Moving down the agenda, any announcements by the board members? Any and all from my right, Mr. Zach?
Yes, I just want to say the Knights of Columbus donated 2 boxes of children's coats. The reason I'm saying this is I'm a member of the Knights of Columbus of St. Andrews, and just to give them a little bit of a shout out and stuff like that, Andy Wasaki, Dan Sawyer, and Gary Hoffman, he does the Tootsie Rolls for us. Jim Blaney did a nice little piece on them, and Jimmy made their Christmas, so the acknowledgement they were just excited about. So I just wanted to say thank you, and wishing everybody a pleasant 2021, and 2020 will be behind us soon, so next time we see you.
From my left?
I just want to say, hopefully everybody has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Holidays. And like Vic said, hopefully 2021 is going to be an improvement. And be safe, everybody.
Anybody on the screen? Diane?
Yep, I just want to reiterate what the other two just said. I hope everyone has a peaceful and restful and safe, healthy break. Come back in 2021 renewed and re-energized, and come right back at it. Our teachers and our staff and our administrators, you deserve this break. And our kids deserve it too, boy. So yeah.
Deb?
I just want to thank all the teachers and staff members who have worked so hard during this COVID time, and hoping that the new year will bring new things and things will get better, and to wish everybody happy holidays. But thank you for all that you do.
Member Campbell?
Yes, and I don't know how I got that picture up there because I really wanted to show my red hat, but I've got plenty of hats, so I have to appreciate that. So ditto on everything that everybody else said, and we do appreciate each and every one of us, and let us continue to appreciate each and every one of us while we have this time. So Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all you, and I appreciate all you board members also, the work that you put, superintendent and all the administration. And so like one of my girlfriends said, we appreciate everybody's bodies at this time, and do we pray that the new year will bring all blessings and prayers to each and every one of you.
Thank you, Liz. To reiterate what everybody else just said, I wish you all happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hopefully things will get better sooner. Liz, we can see your hat now. You're back on.
Thank you, Shelley.
But also, we do have a community that does reach out, as Member Zach said. There are plenty of programs. We hope that no kid goes without a coat. That goes for adults as well. We do have programs in our community. Please reach out. There are places people who will point you in those directions. We do recognize that there's high unemployment going through the statewide and what have you. Nobody should go hungry this time of the year. We have programs in place for that as well, and nobody should go hungry, period, but particularly this time of the year. And it is kind of funny. I was driving down the street the other day, and there was a young boy. It was what I would consider pretty chilly, but he was a young boy with a t-shirt on, and his buddies had jackets on, and one of them had a heavy winter coat on. And I pulled up alongside him on the street, and I said, "Hey, how come you don't have a coat on?" He kind of looked at me, and he goes, "I got a coat, I just don't want it." But it just made me cause for pause in case he didn't have one. I was going to try and find some way to get him one. So it's just one of those things that always sticks with me. And there's, like I said, there's plenty of Coat the Kids programs out there. And thank you to all of our service agencies that are in our community and that do help out. And all those who volunteer for those are huge things, and it's very much appreciated in the community. With that, I think that's it. Oh, announcements by the administration.
Yes, I'll just certainly echo everything that everyone has said. This is certainly a most well-deserved break of all time for our students, staff, parents. Everyone certainly deserves this break, and I wish you a healthy and safe holiday season. After President Quigley adjourns the meeting tonight, we're going to see a BHS and RHS choir students collaboration. It's a beautiful piece that they collaborated virtually on to record a beautiful choral piece called Requiem. And so that will be at the closure of the meeting. If you've hung with us this long, please stick around for a few more minutes because it's truly beautiful and we're proud of our kiddos. And again, thank you all for hanging with us as a community, and we will continue to push forward together. Happy holidays.
Any announcements from the public? Seeing none, hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Have a safe evening and be careful out there. Keep your masks on.